Ladies and gentlemen, when things get hard, it is not a punishment or a mistake of life. It is simply life happening in its fullest, rawest form. You see, life does not owe you ease and comfort. It owes you only one thing, the opportunity to be alive and to grow. The moment you expect life to be smooth, you are already setting yourself up for suffering. Difficulties are not enemies, they are your greatest teachers. When the earth is hard and dry, the seed refuses to sprout, but when it is cracked and challenged, the seed bursts through, reaching for the sky. Your hardships are the cracks in the earth of your being, and through these cracks, your life grows new shoots of resilience and wisdom. How you perceive hardship matters more than the hardship itself. If you see it as a curse, your whole existence becomes a struggle. But if you see it as a doorway, a challenge that life has placed before you, it becomes a play, a dance of growth and transformation. It is in your choice to resist or to embrace that the true battle is won or lost. Resisting what is only tightens your grip on suffering. When you stop fighting the wave and instead learn to ride it, the tide of difficulty turns into a current that carries you forward. The moment you say, yes, this is happening, you find a space within where peace rides untouched by circumstances. Finally, understand that life's hardships are not just obstacles, they are invitations to look deeper beyond the surface noise of your mind and circumstances. In the heart of difficulty lies the possibility of awakening to a dimension of life that is vast, silent and infinitely spacious. When things get hard, remember, this is your moment to grow beyond who you have been. Life's challenges are not interruptions to our plans, but are the very fabric of existence itself. Because from the moment we take birth, the universe begins to test our presence in ways that are sometimes gentle and other times fierce, yet always essential for the unfolding of our experience in this. World earthing remains static and everything is in constant motion. Every person, regardless of their wealth, status or wisdom, encounters moments when life seems to press heavily upon their shoulders, making the heart heavy and the mind restless, reminding us that no one is exempt from the cycle of joy and sorrow that defines the human journey, which moves like the tide coming in and going out without discrimination. The inevitability of hardship is not to be feared or avoided but understood as a natural pulse in the rhythm of life, where the seeds of strength are sown in the soil of difficulty, so that without the challenge, the seed would never find the courage to break through the earth and reach toward the light that waits beyond the darkness. It is in facing the harsh winds and storms that the trees learn to stand firm and deep roots grow, not because the earth is always kind, but because the struggle forces a deeper engagement with life that soft comforts can never cultivate within the core of our being that craves more than mere survival but actual awakening. The universe, in its immense intelligence, never sends trials to punish, but to awaken something within us that has been dormant, waiting patiently for the right conditions to bloom. And it is only through the friction of difficulty that we come to know the depth of our resilience and the vastness of our potential. When you resist the challenges that life brings, you only add to your own suffering as though trying to push a river to flow backward. But when you surrender to flow, accepting that hardship is as much a part of the dance of existence as joy, then you open yourself to learning how to navigate life with grace and presence. These challenges are also mirrors reflecting back the places within, where healing is needed and growth is possible if you dare to look without denial or distraction. Because through confrontation with our difficulty, we are invited to shed old layers and step into new versions of ourselves that were previously unimaginable. So, instead of fearing the trials that life inevitably offers, learn to welcome them as old friends who come bearing gifts disguised in the garments of struggle, and know that each challenge carries the seeds of transformation that, when nurtured with awareness, lead you beyond the ordinary into a life lived with deeper meaning and radiant fullness. Struggle is not a barrier to growth, but the very catalyst that propels life forward, because when everything is easy and comfortable, there is no reason for the inner being to stretch beyond its familiar boundaries. And true expansion happens only when the pressure of difficulty presses on the soul, like a sculptor shaping a raw block of stone into something extraordinary. Every challenge you face cracks open a door within yourself that was previously closed, and behind that door lies a deeper understanding of who you are beyond the roles you play and the masks you wear in the world. So struggle becomes the invitation to step into a more authentic and powerful version of yourself that you could not have imagined. In times of ease, when the body feels weak and the mind confused, the spirit is often the part that begins to awaken, because struggle strips away the illusions and comforts that distract us from the deeper truths And in that raw vulnerability, a new kind of strength is born that is not dependent on external circumstances, but is rooted in the core of existence itself. The fire of adversity refines the soul like gold in the furnace, because only under the heat of hardship can the impurities of fear, doubt, and complacency be burned away, revealing the brilliance of courage, perseverance. And wisdom that had been hidden beneath layers of comfort and certainty. Struggle teaches patience in a way that no other experience can, because this growth is not instantaneous, but unfolds in the silence between breaths, in the quiet moments when you choose to stand firm despite the pain and uncertainty. And it is this patience that becomes the foundation upon which lasting transformation is built in every moment of difficulty. There is a choice to either collapse into despair or to rise with greater clarity and determination. Because the very act of facing struggle head-on is an act of creation that weaves resilience into the fabric of your being, making you stronger, wiser, and more compassionate toward yourself and others. Growth through struggle is not a solitary journey, but one that connects you to the shared experience of all beings who have walked this path before you and those who walk it alongside you now, because the suffering that comes with growth reminds us of our common humanity and the interconnectedness that binds all lives. So when struggle arrives, do not turn away or seek to avoid it, but lean into it with an open heart, knowing that every challenge is a powerful teacher and every hardship is the soil from which your most profound growth will emerge and lead you into a life of greater depth and freedom. The way you perceive any situation is like the lens through which your entire experience is filtered, because two people can face the same circumstance and yet live completely different realities depending on how their mind chooses to interpret what is happening around them and within. And then when life presents difficulty, perception becomes the silent artist painting the colors of your experience. And if your mind chooses fear and resistance, then even the smallest challenge can feel like an insurmountable mountain. But if you shift your perception to curiosity and acceptance, the same challenge can become a doorway to discovery and growth. Our perception is not simply a passive reception of facts, but an active creation that shapes the reality we live in. And when we realize this, we understand that our power lies not in changing the external world, but in transforming the way we see it, so that what once appeared as suffering can be seen as a lesson. But even a gift, the mind tends to cling to patterns and judgments because it seeks certainty and control. But this rigid perception often distorts reality and traps us in repetitive cycles of pain, because we are seeing life through old stories and fears that do not serve us anymore, and only by becoming aware of these mental filters can we begin to break free. Free perception is like a mirror that reflects not only the outside world, but the inside landscape of our thoughts, emotions and beliefs. So when the mirror is clouded by negativity or despair, everything looks bleak. Yet when the mirror is cleansed by awareness and presence, even the harshest realities reveal their deeper meaning and hidden beauty. When you shift your perception from victimhood to empowerment, from scarcity to abundance, from limitation to possibility, your experience begins to change, because the mind no longer interprets challenges as dead ends, but as crossroads that offer choice and opportunities to create something new and alive. Perception shapes not just what you see, but how you feel. See, but how you feel, what you believe about, and how you respond to the world. So cultivating conscious perception is an essential practice for living with clarity, peace and joy, even when circumstances seem chaotic or difficult beyond your control. So remember that the experience of life is not fixed or predetermined, but is constantly molded by the perceptions you hold. And when you learn to observe and refine those perceptions, you open yourself to a reality that is richer, freer, free and more expansive than you ever imagined possible. Resistance is the natural reaction of the mind when faced with discomfort or change. But holding on tightly to resistance only intensifies suffering, because the energy spent in pushing against what is creates friction that burns the spirit and clouds the spirit and cloud the clarity needed to see the path forward. When you resist the flow of life, it is like trying to hold back a river with your hands, where the more you struggle, the stronger the current feels and the more exhausted you become. Yet, when you learn to release that grip and move with the river instead of against it, you discover a surprising ease and grace in the very thing you feared. Letting go of resistance does not mean giving up or becoming passive. Rather, accepting the reality of the moment without judgment, so that you can respond to life with presence and wisdom instead of reaction and confusion. Because acceptance opens a space within where creative solutions and healing can emerge naturally. Resistance often arises from fear of the unknown, to attachment to how things should be, but life rarely unfolds according to our expectations, and by clinging to these expectations, We build walls around ourselves that block the fresh energy of possibility and transformation that flows through surrender. When you practice letting go of resistance, you are not denying your feelings or ignoring difficulties, but allowing them to be exactly as they are without adding the extra burden of mental struggle. And in this spaciousness, the weight of hardship becomes lighter and the heart grows stronger to face what is needed with courage and clarity. The mind likes to categorize and control. But true freedom begins when you loosen the grip of control and open yourself to the unfolding mystery of existence, because in the release of resistance, you connect with a deeper intelligence that moves beyond the limits of thought and finds solutions beyond the visible horizon. Letting go is a continuous process and not a one-time event, because life is always changing and new challenges arise that invite fresh resistance. So the practice is to return again and again to the awareness of where you are holding on and gently invite yourself to relax into what is, even if it feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar ultimately. Letting go of resistance is a gift you give yourself that transforms struggle into peace and limitation into expansion, because when you stop fighting life, you begin to live life fully, freely, and with an open heart that embraces both the storms and the sunshine as necessary parts of the journey. Life, as we usually see, it is like looking at a surface reflection in a pond where the images are fleeting and shallow, but beneath that surface lies a vast depth that few choose to explore because the noise of everyday existence keeps the mind busy and distracted from sensing what is truly alive and vast within the deeper dimension of life. Is not found in external achievements or possessions, but in the silent spaces between thoughts, where the restless mind settles and the heart opens to a reality that is timeless and boundless, inviting us to experience existence beyond the usual boundaries of self and circumstance. When you dive beneath the surface of life's events, you begin to feel the presence of something greater that holds all things together, like the ocean that embraces every wave without judgment or preference. And this deeper dimension reveals that what we call life is part of a much larger and more mysterious unfolding that is always in motion again. This dimension is not something to be understood by the intellect alone, because it is not a concept but a living reality that can only be known through direct experience when you allow yourself to become still and turn your attention inward. Beyond the distractions of the mind and the noise of the world outside, the deeper dimension of life invites you to see beyond dualities of pleasure and pain, success and failure, joy and sorrow, because it reveals the interconnectedness of all things where opposites dissolve and a profound unity emerges that transcends all distinctions and limitations that the mind tries to impose in this deeper space. The ego's grip loosens and the false sense of separation begins to dissolve, because you recognize that your individual existence is part of a vast, intelligent and loving whole that pulses with life and consciousness far beyond your personal story. Your identity experiencing this dimension transforms the way you live, because life ceases to be merely a series of external events and becomes a sacred journey where every moment is infused with meaning and every gig is seen as an opportunity to awaken more fully to the truth of who you are beyond form and time. So the deeper dimension of life is always available to you, not somewhere far away, but here and now beneath the surface of your everyday experience, waiting for you to turn your gaze inward and rest in the spaciousness of being, where life reveals itself as infinite, mysterious and profoundly alive.